everybody. Welcome to another episode of my life with Elite Outcome Academy and how I came to be here. Today I'm going to talk about self-sabotage in the form of failure to succeed. I had for a long time this inability to be successful. I would absolutely destroy my life every time I would start inching up towards being successful. Every time it would come up and I would start to recognize that, whoa, I've actually accomplished something here, I didn't trust it. I don't really have a fear of failure. See, I'm pretty risk averse. Risk does not scare me. It does not bother me. I take a lot of risk. I'm an entrepreneur at heart. I'm a rebel at heart, and this has led me down a path of both beautiful construction of things and absolute destruction of others. And I'm okay with that. I absolutely embrace it. Now that I've moved beyond having a destructive nature, I have come to a place where I'm no longer ashamed of and have this drive to escape all of the negative feelings that are part of my history, because I have transformed. I have become new. I have forgiven myself, and I have created the ability to see things from a different perspective. This is interesting. There's that curly hair CIA guy. I can't remember his name. He's all over the internet all the time. And one of the things he says that they train on in the CIA is perception versus perspective. And for a long time, I could only perceive what my mind would allow me to, which was how much trouble I was creating, or how much the inability to be successful, if we're going to stay on the thread of this topic here. My perception, both consciously and subconsciously, but more subconsciously, and I'm going to get into this here in just a moment of what I mean by subconsciously, because it took perspective to be able to uncover the subconscious parts of my fear of success. And but being able to understand the difference between what we are seeing and the way that we feel in perception, and being able to get outside of that and gain a new perspective, is something that I had in a natural skill to utilize when it came to everybody else. And until I turned it onto myself, I was absolutely dysfunctional, absolutely chaotic. I've been through a lot. I've been through a tremendous amount of chaos. So, being able to reconcile the difference between naturally occurring neurological, emotional, and intellectual turmoil that comes from experiencing things that are unnatural and unnatural to my birth-given ability to be docile and moral and ethical and easygoing. Okay? I think there's a big point in that, and we'll come back to that on a different episode. But when I had the ability to see things from a different angle, from a new perspective, I was able to figure out why I was self-sabotaging every time I came up to success. On a surface level, I knew it was like a self-worth issue or a deservance issue. I didn't think I deserved to be somebody who could achieve great things. I had this cognitive dissonance. I keep trying to inject this word and this definition into my vocabulary, and I finally did it about 20 minutes ago. Cognitive dissonance, meaning I had two competing ideas about who I was supposed to be and what I was capable of. I didn't think that I was worthy of achieving great things while simultaneously attempting to achieve and chase doing great things in my entrepreneurial endeavors. And so after failure after failure after failure in business, in relationships, and nearly as being present on this earth, I nearly failed at just doing that. I had to boil down what the problem was. You see, I've burned so many bridges because of this. And my inability to have control when all of the alarms were going off, because as we're going to start moving into discovering what I went through to get to this process. As all of the alarms started going off of, remember, this doesn't work. Remember how every time you try to be successful, something bad happens. Remember how you're not worthy, and the alarms would start going off. Mentally, if you haven't yet come to learn about my 5 centers framework training, it's mental, emotional, physiological, neurological, and spiritual, each of them having an alarm that then trigger a big alarm. I would have these mental alarms going off, emotional alarms going off, neurological alarms going off, physiological alarms going off, and my beliefs and opinions that live inside of my spiritual center were going off, and I would destroy it all. And I would do things that would inadvertently take away my ability to be successful. And the last time I did this, I owned a little storage building. I co-owned it with a great mentor of mine, and he allowed me the opportunity to go through this process of owning and operating a small business. And when I finally got to the point where, after 2 years, almost 2 years of owning it, I finally got to the point where it was successfully running, profitable, all of the things. Amongst other issues that we would get into on other episodes, I had this fear of success kick in again. And when I turned my perspective onto myself, my ability to see things for what they are and how they are and all of the stuff, I discovered that it must have been early on in my life that this was installed. Because it wasn't installed due to the failures that I had up to that point in multiple other business ventures and leadership endeavors and other things. I had through my self-educating myself in psychology and human behavior, knew that there was this download period of time from the ages of 0 to 7 where we're downloading the world around us, and then we end up viewing the world through this lens of information that we gathered from 0 to 7. After 7 years old, we kind of become conscious and continue to become more conscious and navigate the world based on the information that we developed as a foundation, and then of course data that we collect along the way. So I went back and I started doing sort of a timeline study. What was happening between the ages of 0 to 7 in my life? What was happening in my parents' life? What was happening in my environment? What are the stories that I've heard? What are the things that I remember? Because I have nearly to a detriment a memory that I can visually, almost in video, sometimes in video, but I can remember in very great detail things from when I was like 4 years old. And actually my earliest memory is from when I was 2. But the ability to scientifically take myself out of the emotions, out of the thoughts, out of the neurological responses, take myself out of my beliefs and opinions about who I am and what I'm made of, and just really take a God's eye view of my life at that time. And I discovered something. That early on in my life, my mom had her things going on. And that made it really difficult for me in my relentless attempt, because every child has a relentless attempt at achieving whatever they put their mind to, which is fantastic, by the way. If you have children, help them to harness this. We can go to that in another episode as well. But to be able to go back and look at how many times I tried to get my mom's love. How many times, by the way, Mom, if you're watching this episode, it's okay. We've gone down this road of opportunity, of healing and other things. This is just old story now at this point. But trying to get my mother's love, of getting her attention, getting her to interact, getting her to pay attention. Because by the time I was 3, 4, 5 years old, life was really messy for her. She did not have the ability to really process her experience in life in a constructive way. Now, it wouldn't be long until she began her journey of being able to do that. But she also came from a background that didn't afford her the opportunity to learn how to be a successful operating adult. My grandparents were not that great of an example for that. So, all of the turmoil in her life disconnected her from the ability to allow me to be successfully nurtured. Okay? So time after time after time of me going, hey mom, play with me. Hey mom, pay attention to me. Hey mom, look at me. Hey mom. And I get little bits of nuggets of pieces of information, pieces of success, and then it would stop working. And then I would do it again and it would stop working. I'd get little bits and it'd stop working. And then I recognized this in my adult life as the pattern developed early on that got wired in neurologically that said, regardless of how relentless you are at achieving success, it doesn't work to the greatest degree. The greatest success that anybody could ever have is to fulfill that natural biological desire to have a father or mother's attention. It's literally part of our wiring as a child to make sure that we are staying connected with our parents in order to survive. It's a survival mechanism. So, going back and putting myself through the experiment, I now plug back into the mental, emotional, neurological, spiritual beliefs and the what I do physically with my body. I was able to experience what was happening subconsciously as I attempted to achieve success. Because I'm blessed with this memory that I have. Two things I wish. I wish that I hadn't drank so much when I did, and I wish that I didn't have the 3 head injuries that I have. Because I can't imagine how much more use of my brain I would have. And perhaps it's healing because it feels like it is. But anyway, I digress. The ability to plug back into the moments where I started to recognize self-sabotage. And I go, okay, it's when the clearing comes of confirmation that success is possible. Because a little bit, and is this? No, this isn't it. Which is what got wired in as a child. Now, though, I've probably decreased the alarms in the 5 centers. I've decreased their volume. I can sense it now. I can sense it now when it's coming. And I get to go, okay, all right. Big Eric gets to take care of little Eric right now and let him know it's okay. The neurological pathways that got trained to stay safe, to stay away from total meltdown, or how do I put this? Because I'm not using the right language right here. Because they are survival mechanisms is why I'm using language like stay safe. That's not right here. The neurological pathways that recognized my inability to be successful after many relentless attempts fire off. And when they fire off, I now recognize it. And the truth is, only in that time, only at that time, which a very impactful one, but only at that time did that matter. My ability to be successful still exists. My belief that it's possible is what has been miswired. So I look at percentages of possibility. And I say, is that true today? Do I have to fear success today because of my past experience? And of course the answer is no. No, I do not have to fear success today. That was an old story, an old mechanism, an old point in time that is no longer true or relevant, because you see, I found other ways to survive. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here with you. So take the time to become more than just stuck. To be able to have more than just a perception of what is wrong, but to gain a perspective of what happened. To become scientific or agnostic, to become experimental. This will raise your self-awareness. This will raise your ability to be more cognitive of what is going on in your life. It'll raise your ability to be somebody that is triumphant rather than triggered. Thanks for spending time with me here today to listen to my story. I'll tell it again in the future because this is still a very early episode. I think we're on episode 5 here. I'm still attempting my goal of putting out an episode every day. I'm not going to let it affect my confidence or self-worth if I don't, but it is a goal. So we'll see. From episode 1 till December of next year, we'll see how close I got. We'll just add them up. How many days of the year compared to how many episodes I've put out. So stick with me here, if you would. I've got something to say and I've got ways to help. With that being said, become elite and find somebody to be kind to today.